Welcome back to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can listen to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. To support podcasts such as Everyday Economics, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording today's episode on Tuesday, February 20th. And joining me, as always, my friend and colleague, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist. Dr. O, I want to talk to you about this report from the Congressional Budget Office. Before we do that, I mean, part of what we want to accomplish at Everyday Economics is to help people to understand some common terminology. And when reports come out, they don't all come from the same place or from credible sources. The Congressional Budget Office is what, and why should we be listening to the reports that they produce?
Okay, well, let me just break it down. Okay, the Congressional Budget Office, basically, their job is to produce an independent budget and economic outlook for Congress. And, and so like before we decide to vote on any kind of appropriation or budgetary, budget for the United States, right? We look to, and by the way, not just a budget, but also, any kind of new policy. We're trying to, what's the common terminology? We're trying to score the impact of a policy, right? The merit of a policy. And so we turn to the Congressional Budget Office to do that work for us. Or at least when I say us, I mean members of Congress.
It's supposed to be nonpartisan. It's not supposed to have implicit bias. Some people have accused it of leaning left. Others have accused it at different times of leaning right. Mm-hmm. It is not, it's not supposed to do anything but deliver straight up economic data. The thing that you and I were talking about that was in or coming out of the CBO was this budget and economic outlook, which is a 10-year projection, 2024 to 2034. And in this report, the one piece, and this is a long document. I don't know how many pages are in this, but and everybody can go and look at it at cbo.gov, cbo.gov. Is the labor force projections. And, where you and I found it to be really interesting would be projections based on this new migrant population that's coming into the United States, which has not been quantified in any conclusive way. Some people estimate 8 million. I've heard as many as 14 million people have come into the United States since 2021. And so, when you look at the projection over time, and there's a chart, and we invite everybody to go and take a look at this. Is on, I believe, page 7 of the PDF. If you look at the February 23 prediction versus the revised prediction, it is taking into account a significant growth in the population of the United States and a significant growth in the potential labor force. So, can you offer some insights on this? Can you give us an understanding of, first of all, why is it important to have this kind of a forecast, and what would the average American do with this information once they?
Totally. I mean, historically, immigration's been a boon for America, and I'll tell you why. A couple of things. Number one, it's an increase in the labor force, and in a situation, especially now more than ever before, the situation we are plagued with labor shortages that have pushed wage growth higher and pushed and potentially, right, cause inflation, upside inflation risk to remain pretty strong. We could use an increase in the labor force, especially in the sectors that are plagued by those shortages. And we're talking about healthcare, right? Construction, healthcare sector, construction sector, where you just have these labor shortages that are becoming a problem. So big benefit. In the past, immigrants have also brought, more ingenuity and technologies. We've seen massive increase in productivity growth from immigration as well.
Just to pause you there, though, I mean, I think that the immigration that we're looking at here would be different than the U.S. standard, which is roughly about 1 million, new immigrants a year, are added in. When you add in,
almost three times. Yeah.
Well, some people would say 8 to 14 times. And you don't have a good handle on, who these people are or what their capabilities are. They're being admitted, into the country without, clear work record or even clear record of who they are. I guess I find it kind of odd that the CBO can somehow process these numbers and make sense of them.
I would argue though that regardless of where they are on the scale, in terms of labor and skill, I would argue that because labor shortages were more severe at the bottom end of the income distribution in services sectors.
That's totally fair. I think where I was trying to sort of get a word, just to get a word in is that, that the, immigration, our process has been somewhat measured.
It has been a mess. Let's be honest.
But traditionally, I mean, like when you're talking about bringing in people into the United States has been keenly interested in bringing in people who could do exactly what you had said at the beginning, who could innovate, be entrepreneurial, and, bring technology or the ability to work with technology, in theory to make the country better.
Totally. Exactly. I mean, it works both ways, right? I talked about the fact that you get an increase in the labor force. What I didn't talk about was the fact that you also get an increase in housing demand, essentially.
Right. Yeah, right.
Right.
And we're how many houses short per year estimate?
We started with we're at 4.3 million, 4.3 million housing unit deficit in 2021. I'm going to be doing some work to update that study this year to find out if we made any progress. Mm-hmm. We found a lot of building during the pandemic,
true,
which was good, but lots of people also went out to try to move out on their own during the pandemic.
Yep.
Right. And now we have the surge in immigration. So we have this big increase in housing demand. And by the way, that's good for housing.
I mean, I think we've also had a lot of people that have retrenched and gone in and we have more multifamily scenarios under a single roof than we've had in quite
due to the affordability issues. But I think,
exactly right.
I think we're heading in the right direction when it comes to housing supply. The problem though that I foresee is that we might not be moving fast enough. Right. So, and then now that you have another increase in demand, at this kind of shock, because this came out as a surprise to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Then you gotta, we need to build even faster. And I don't know if we're going to be able to build faster. I think we're still ramping up this. We need a sustained, increase in new construction in housing supply to absorb all of that demand, which is, by the way, another reason why I worry a little bit about when we talk about the general disinflation and the fact that rate cuts should be coming, that we're trying to get back to the 2% target. And
mm-hmm.
right, I worry a little bit that it might take longer to get back to the Fed's 2% target when it comes to Fed's inflation target, because, we are the demand side is, still, in my opinion, outpacing our ability to produce goods and services.
Yeah.
And to produce housing.
Any final thoughts on this subject matter? I know this is interesting and it's deeply complex and we could spend probably an hour on it. We don't spend an hour on the things that we talk about. So I'll let you.
I mean, we desperately need we desperately need increases in productivity growth in this country. And to the extent, and again, and some people might also argue that because we had an aging population, having a young workforce is good over the long run. And I kind of agree with that. We need those younger people. We need workers, in order to help us, especially given that our aging population is going to require a lot more, from our government, from our finances as a whole, right? That we're going to have to spend more in taxes to sustain this aging population. And so in order to prevent tax rates from rising, we need that increase in the tax base. And that's going to have to come from younger, able, highly skilled workers.
Well, as always, I appreciate your thoughts. For Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and americastalking.com.